This is the Geeks of the Valley podcast. My name is Kunal.
And my name is Roshan.
Welcome to Geeks of the Valley. We connect with some of the brightest minds globally who are leading their respective industries today to discuss some of the hottest upcoming industry trends and how their work is affecting the global economy. Today, we have a fascinating personality who is a venture partner at Contrary Capital, one of the largest co-led student-run VC funds out there, Keegan McNamara. Keegan, how are you today? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me on.
So, Keegan, if you could kind of get into a little bit about your background and tell us about how it all started for you to where you are today, and tell just quickly, run us through that aspect.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess it really starts back like freshman year of high school. I was able to get an internship doing like front end development at a small startup in Denver, Colorado. I'm from Boulder, Colorado, born and raised, and that sort of just shot me into the business world in general, I guess, and tech and startups. And ever since then, I did a few design internships, and then throughout college did internships at Amazon, and then a couple other small like side gigs for startups doing development stuff. And at Amazon, I did research science one summer, and then just regular software engineering one of the other summers. And I guess throughout my life, I've just had that sort of interest in startups ever since the beginning of high school. And in college, that sort of culminated with Amazon, and then also just trying to build like technical background. And in addition to that technical background, I think it's really important to cultivate business skills and sort of explore the other side of the aisle, because there's a lot of different facets that are required in founders to make companies work. And the best avenue for that, for me, seemed to be working in VC and getting exposure to a bunch of really cool student-founded startups. So Contrary just sort of popped out as a wonderful avenue to do that. So I applied and got in, and it's been a wonderful experience over the past couple of years that I've been involved.
Mm-hmm. I bet. And when it comes to, focusing on the aspect, just quickly on Contrary Capital, what were some of the, fascinating startups you might have looked into or seen while there?
Some of Contrary's some of Contrary's portfolio companies are super interesting. So obviously, like, just to give you sort of a general background, we primarily invest in companies that touch the university ecosystem. So that can mean companies founded by people who are in school or professors, or even like recent grads as well as another common one. So I've kind of gotten to see companies across the gamut at Contrary, again, ranging from, kids who are just grinding away in their dorm rooms to professors who are doing research level technology and trying to commercialize it. So it's really hard to like pinpoint one in particular that stands out as extremely interesting, but some of the tech in specific that I've seen has been really interesting. And when I say tech, I mean like very high level research oriented stuff. One example of that is a company that used to be called Hazel Biosciences. So they develop synthetic muscles, which is like a very interesting thing. It's like essentially pouches of a special solution, and then when they run current through that solution, electrical current through that solution, the muscle bags sort of like contract in a way that mimics human muscles. So that was definitely one whose technology really stood out to me, and they're looking to commercialize pretty soon. And then I guess in sort of like the more soft tech side of things, there was a company that was started by a couple of guys who were Harvard and Williams College dropouts called Board. And what Board did was essentially gave cash up front to people who are looking to make mortgages. So the mortgage market is extremely competitive nowadays, and it's really hard to actually nail mortgages on competitive houses unless you're making cash offers. And obviously that's completely infeasible for the vast majority of the population. But Board was basically pre-vetting people who are interested in starting mortgages, and then backing their offers on houses with cash. And then they would just, the homeowners would repay their mortgage to Board as opposed to a traditional lending service. And And so that was one of the more innovative, like real estate, soft tech side of things that I've seen.
Very interesting. The one thing would be, when it comes to looking at the investment thesis of Contrary, and thank you for detailing that. What does your investment size look at when you invest in a company? Whether, is your pre-seed 250 to $500,000? What percentage of equity do you guys set that you usually take into these companies for, entrepreneurs out there that are interested in being like, hey, I'm a college student. I want Contrary Capital to maybe invest in me. What would be the steps they should take? And what deal size are they looking at?
Yeah. So we have like a typical sort of investment size, and that's usually 50, 100, or 250K at a 2 mil cap. So that's like 2.5, 5, or 10% respectively. And again, this is for, primarily pre-seed companies, people who have ideas and perhaps a few customers, maybe a product built out in a solid team, but really haven't raised any sort of capital before and need that initial money to really devote all of their time to it. We know that as student founders, it's hard to sort of eschew classes and your other commitments in order to really focus on something, and giving capital often enables that to really occur. So that's one of our primary value adds, I guess I would say, is just like giving people the motivation they need to actually pursue something full time. Those are the typical investment sizes. If anybody is working on anything interesting, you can feel free to just shoot me personally an email, keegan@contrarycap.com. We have Contrary venture partners at a bunch of different universities across the nation. And if you're a student founder, there's a pretty high likelihood that they're venture partners at your university. So if you go to contrarycap.com/team, you can search for your school and then find the respective venture partners that are at your school. So either reaching out to me directly or to the venture partners at your institution are two really good avenues for getting in touch with us. And then I was just going to add on as well that although our typical check size is 50, 100, or 250K, we also do invest beyond that. And then we also are flexible on cap. We just like to keep it pretty standardized most of the time. So, yeah.
Okay. Cool. No, very nice to hear. Thank you for that. Keegan, is there anything interesting that you're working on in regards to your startup right now? Just because, there's you kind of see two flows of things. It's either you start as an entrepreneur and then you jump into being a venture capitalist, or you go the other way around from being a venture capitalist to an entrepreneur because you pick up an entrepreneurial bug.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So part of being at Contrary that has been really, really awesome is just that getting to talk to and be around really ambitious young founders has sort of sparked in myself as like another young person a desire to found something and really take a podcast take a product through the ringer and go through the entire process of doing a startup. So the project that I'm working on right now is called Aloud, and at the moment it's just a subscription newsletter where people pay $10 a month in order to get access to a weekly email where we send out three of our favorite articles of the past week that have been narrated aloud. So we select 3 articles and then narrate them and then plop them into an email and then send that out to people who pay for it. And eventually, this is sort of an alpha product right now, just to gauge market interest and test our sort of hypotheses around the state of audio and this product in general. But eventually, if it does end up becoming successful, we plan on transitioning to more of a venture-backed model, sort of using like an Audible type subscription process where you pay like $30 a month in order to get access to 4 or 5 credits. And then you can use a credit in redemption for an article of your choice or a blog post of your choice to be read aloud and then delivered to you in sort of a podcast-like format. So there'll likely be an app where you can just enter the links of articles that you want read aloud in exchange for credits, and then we'll have a professional narrator narrate the audio to the article and then deliver it to you in the app. And that's sort of, again, like further down the road, assuming that we get good validation from this initial email newsletter product. But one of the core thoughts here is just that there's a significant gap in the market between something like a podcast and something like an audiobook. Podcasts are, very conversational, much shorter, whereas books or audiobooks are literally just the audio read aloud of books. So the ideas are harder to understand and is a bit denser overall. And we think that right in the middle sits something just like aloud, where articles and blog posts and traditionally untouched by audio pieces of writing can be converted into that form and then made very accessible for listeners. And one of the core pieces of data that we found when we were doing customer interviews earlier on is that the vast majority of people prefer listening to audio over actually reading something. So we hope to sort of confirm that piece of data that we got just through interviews and see it reflected in the demand for a product like this. But I think that.
No, I
was just going to say that audio products in general are fairly interesting to me. There's something very primal about communication via sound that I think people have really missed out on. And writing is weird. It's sort of like a hijacking of a bunch of different parts of your brain for a purpose that they're not really designed for. Whereas audio is much more ingrained in our biology and how we communicate as sort of a species in general. So I think that there's an interesting vertical and a lot of potential products still to be explored in the audio space.
Okay, no, fantastic. What a fascinating idea, Keegan. I mean, if people want to reach out to you on this idea and want to discuss more in detail about this product and what it is, how do you suggest they best reach you? Through your Contrary Cap email or what do you suggest?
Yeah, Contrary Cap email works well. I'm very responsive on there, considering I see deal flow through it. So yeah, feel free to reach out there.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, there was one aspect in the conversation I wanted to run back to and just detail on is it's very fascinating to see that you really focused on the aspect of ensuring that you really are able to connect with the customers and ensure that whoever's consuming your product, that you're seeing and testing your MVP with them to see what feedback they would give back to you. Is there a reason why you decided to tackle it from that perspective?
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting question. So coming from VC, when it's sort of like seed stage, early stage, typically what we invest on is team primarily. The quality of the team is a really strong indicator of performance in the long run. When you get to later stages, obviously market and product become significantly more important. But early stage, you typically worry about the team first and foremost. Whereas, so for this product that I'm building, I have confidence in the team just by virtue of me selecting the people that I want to work with on it. So I don't really need to vet that. And then instead, I think that market becomes one of the really important things. It's sort of like, if you create a really poor product in a really terrific market, the odds are still high that you'll see success with that product. So I think one of the core components of just starting a company, once you have the team figured out, is ensuring that the market is what you think it is, and that it can support the product that you think you've come up with. So that's sort of like a core investment thesis that I have that I've transferred over to more of the product side of things. And yeah, I mean, in terms of gauging the market, like there's no better way to do that than talking to either potential customers or people who are actually using what you have. So I think, yeah, that's just like sort of a porting over of my investment theses to the product side of the world. But that's a great question.
Yeah, thanks for sharing like kind of your thought process of how you go about these things, because I think entrepreneurship is increasing all around the world, but there's a lot of people who are still kind of lost about the next best thing to do, or a lot of them, sharing stories like yours and methodologies like yours kind of reminds people of, the core principles behind like success in startups, because nowadays